Gooner Talk back in with you guys for another show. I'm done. Okay, I'm finished. I've had enough of podcasting. I've done too many. I've done too many podcasts and shows, and I have taken 4 paracetamol today just to get rid of this headache from staring at screens continuously for about 48 hours. And that's why I'm going to leave most of the talking to these 2 and Mike, wonderful gentlemen I've got with me. So actually, to be fair, Drew's here as well. But I'm going to introduce them all now, so they're going to introduce themselves because I can't do it. So in the orange shirt, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, it's Lee Judges from EasyJet.
Brilliant. Beanie Boy, do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Drew.
I really hope that's not some sort of racial stereotype that I don't know about saying that.
No, you're saying I'll be sure to tell you. Don't.
Oh, I'm sure you would, mate. I'm sure
that's more of a Jewish thing, actually.
That's very true. Just
okay.
a smaller version, maybe
this,
orders than that.
This is a nice segue. Introduce yourself, final guest.
Me llamo Miguel, and you've been grafting your tongues off.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Are you almost done? You gonna take a week's break now and just let it all sink in?
No, I've got 2 shows coming out tomorrow. So one more tonight, actually, but I've already pre-recorded that, so it's just I'll talk more about that at the end.
You got one in the can then, huh?
Yes. I've got a couple pre-recorded. I'll talk all about it at the end.
That's what she said.
So if you want to find out what that is, shut up. Then you have to stick around to the end of the show. Let's get you guys talking because as I said, I'm done with talking. So Lee, I feel that you may differ to the opinions of the other 3 people in this chat, and that's why I'm most intrigued to get your thoughts on this window. So give me a 2-minute roundup of your thoughts then, mate.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I'm slightly underwhelmed by it all. Everybody said it was going to be exciting and all that. Well, I'm certainly not excited by it all. We've done some good business with Pepe. I have to say that, and the Spanish midfield player Danny. But that's only a loan deal. Speaking to someone earlier on, if someone said if we'd have signed a top class centre half, would you have been happy with the window? And I would have been. But I look at it, we're going into this season. This is the second time now that we're going in there without a right back. Maitland-Niles is going to have to fill in that role for I don't know how long. We could have addressed that. There was a couple of free transfers about if it would have could have helped. And all of a sudden, I've been at Stamford Bridge on many occasions, Chelsea and all that. The pantomime villain was David Luiz. I remember the tackle on Sanchez. Everybody was wanting to kill him and do everything they possibly can to him. And all of a sudden now he's the best thing since sliced bread. He's the best defender in the world, and he. I wasn't convinced. I'm not convinced that he's a great defender when he's been at Chelsea, and because now he's wearing a red and white shirt, I'm not convinced he's going to be a great defender for us. And I'm fed up with Chelsea giving us a cast-offs all the time. If we're not learned our lesson, we give us Petr Cech, and now they've gone and done it with David Luiz. And if the reports are true, the reason that he has decided to leave Chelsea is because Frank Lampard turned around and said to him, you're going to be 4th choice central defender for him. 4th choice central defender. And so he's decided to leave. And that's good enough for us. And then everybody's turning around and saying, oh, he's going to improve us. Their 4th choice best defender is going to improve us. How bad was our defence in the first place then? So I look at it. We've replaced Koscielny with David Luiz. Arguably is that better? I'll go along with that. Is the Spanish boy better than Aaron Ramsey? We don't know. And I'm not going to say this. I'm a little bit disappointed that Alex Iwobi has gone on the last minute. Homegrown player, £35 million profit. Yeah. And we've not reinvested that in any shape or form. And don't say, oh, we've got Pepe and all that. We all know that Pepe come in instalments. So I don't think that, I felt that we could have probably, gone out and I feel a little bit, we put a bid in for Zaha. We now got more money by losing Iwobi. Well, if we'd have replaced Iwobi with Zaha, that would have been a definite upgrade, and it wouldn't have been that much money spent in this transfer window. And people keep saying to me, like, "Oh, well, we've balanced the books. We've only spent this and spent that." And I'm looking at it and going, "Well, we're Arsenal Football Club. Should we? You know, what I mean, we had a chance here today to really invest and really go for it." And I'm not being over. When you've got people like Sam Allardyce turning around and saying, you know, we've got a title-winning strike force, we've got a top 4 challenge in midfield, and then we've got a mid-table relegation defence. Now, if we could have improved that defence, Tom, and I mean really improved it,
yeah,
we could have really been going for a real challenge. And I feel that we've been let down, I think, on the defensive side. Yes, I think with Tierney coming in, does that improve us? No one knows. No one knows this side of it. Like, I look at Tottenham. Have they got the better deal with Session for 25 million? I don't know, because we don't know too much about Tierney, if I'll be honest. And, you know, I just feel that we've done some great business to get, you know, people are more delighted with the players we've got off of our books. And I will say this, that we've got players off our books, but we've still got Mustafi, we've still got Ozil, and we've still got Mkhitaryan. And the reason we still got them is because we can't sell them. That is the fact, right? We can't sell them. So what do? We've got to play these guys now. If we don't play these guys, you know what I mean? As people have turned around, it's 500, 600, 700 million, 1,000 pound a week. Is it that we're giving away? It's a real difficult situation. So because no one else wants these guys, we're going to have to play them. You know what I mean? And I feel a little bit frustrated, I've got to say. You know, that's how I feel about it all. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just hoping that you know, but then I look at everybody else. They've been saying, you know, Charlie Nicholas, who's one of my idols, has been turning around and saying that it's been a good window. So I'm just going to have to hope that it is a good window. But personally, I'm not excited like Josh was going to tell me I was going to be.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people have obviously different opinions about it. I think that for a lot of people, signing a centre-back which would come into the team and drastically improve our defensive nature was huge. And I've got complete empathy for that feeling. I think there's other deals that have happened for us, which I think has made up some part of that. But I am in complete agreement that at the start of this transfer window, Arsenal had one goal for me, and that was one main goal at least, and that was to improve the defence considerably to stop the leakiness of the goals that we've seen cost us on so many occasions. So, Lee, whilst I understand, and Andy from the Gooners podcast, which is some podcast I've never heard before, he might be calling you grumpy, but I can completely understand where you're coming from.
That's a compliment from him, I'll tell you.
Drew, I'll go to you, mate. What's your reaction to this transfer window?
I mean, it's safe to say Lee's not happy, so I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I don't want to put a number rating on it, but I think when you generally look at it, I think we actually have improved the squad overall. I think that looking at the nature of it, there's no excuse to not get top 4 this season. You know, people will want, you know, they wanted that big money signing with Meccano. I won't even start ranting again as to why that wasn't happening this summer. I've done it enough already in the last 48 hours. But I also see the need as to why the fan base thinks it can happen, but they're also not considering the fact that there are other ways to improve your defense. If you look at, and someone posted this earlier this morning, if you look at the nature of City's core of their center backs, past Laporte, they're all average at best. You know, Otamendi, Mangala, etc. They're not brilliant. City have such a good defensive setup, and their numbers are great in terms of goals they allow because their press is fantastic. They're organized off the ball. They know their instructions to the core. There's no excuses. Pep would have drilled that into him, and Tommy knew that from Pep's time at Barca. I know that from Pep's time in Bayern Munich, where he turned them into a much more modern pressing team. And they you know, no one could really even get goals for fun against them. So, while obviously people wanted a player better than David Luiz, I can understand it, of course. You know, they maybe wanted Mustafi to go. But the way that Emery can really sort of close the gap is making sure that our press is better than what it was last year, because our press was a joke last year. I mean, we abandoned it in large parts of the season for a reason. It wasn't working. I do think you need certain personnel for that as well. And I think that's why people are starting to suggest that maybe you want to see Danny Ceballos come in for Granit Xhaka if we want to be a bit more pressing in midfield. Obviously, he's more mobile. Tom, again, you'll know that better than anybody here. So I do think there's still light at the end of the tunnel in terms of that. Across the other signings, I think we're all over the moon with Pepe. I think we can agree. I think Ceballos has a lot of upside, especially if in the end we get him on a full next summer. And given the links that Real had with Donny van de Beek, then that's all possible. We don't really know. Yeah. But I think there's options there. And I think if you look at the forward options that we have when everyone's fit and firing, again, I mean, if you improve the press, you also improve how many chances we can create for the forward and how we hem teams in. That limits the amount of chances created that we suffer. It also ups our goal tally. And then if our goal difference keeps improving over the course of the year, that's all you need to see in terms of the uptrend as to why we should be getting top four. I'm happy with Tierney. I know Lee's kind of disappointed that we didn't get a Premier League ready player. Maybe he would have preferred Sessegnon, but last I read that I think Poch is going to use Sessegnon as a winger before he moves him back to left back further forward in his career. So I don't know. I'm happy with it. Obviously, it wasn't a 10 out of 10 window, but an 8, 8.5. I think that's what we try to suggest. I think we, at least on paper, addressed all the issues we needed. I do think that on the strength of it, David Luiz is an upgrade potentially over someone like Mustafi, who I don't despise, obviously, but I think Luiz brings something we actually lack. He's actually excellent in the air. He's good with building from the back, which is what Pep actually wants. So you can see maybe why they took the punt on a cheap transfer, stopgap 2-year deal. Doesn't help us now this season. Sure, it's leave it comes in. Maybe we buy a bigger center back next summer and reevaluate it and see how it goes. Let his contract run down and let him go. You never really know. But I think going into this season, I think everyone should be expecting to get top four. And if we don't, then it's hard to see where Emery can hide moving forward, certainly as well. So.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. I think that we've obviously seen two paralleled sort of takes on the transfer window. It's right to say we signed in the positions that we needed to, and it's down to debate whether you think that we signed well enough in those positions. And I think that Lee makes a fantastic argument to say that our main goal should have been signing that centre back that transformed us. For me, that would have been Dayot Upamecano. He would have transformed the defence for me. But it was a too complicated and too expensive deal to get done at the last minute. And to be honest, whilst we've praised Raul and Edu and that, for me, that is the big fall down for them, is that whilst they may have targeted Upamecano right at the end, that should have been the priority much earlier on in the window. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. And then obviously that's led us to the point where we're at now. Thank you ever so much for the donation in the chat from C-Law AFC. I will save your question and talk about it for when we're on to the specifics of the signings. Don't worry, I've seen it and we will talk about it. Mike, just give me sort of your reaction. We've covered sort of the positives and the negatives of the window. Give me your personal highlight. Can't hear you, all right, mate. I think I may have muted you. Still can't hear you. We can't hear you, Mike. You're gonna have to rejoin us, mate. In terms of then, Lee, I'll go back to you very quickly while we're waiting for Mike to come back in again. The highlight, though, whilst I understand your negatives, obviously we spent a lot of money on someone like Nicola Pepe. Came in as a winger. You were upset that we lost Iwobi. How much of Pepe have you managed to sort of have a look at, glean, do a bit of research, watched him? Does he excite you? Is he someone?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think he's going to. We've needed someone like this. We have needed someone like this. I know we've been pushing for a central defender, but we've needed a wide player that's going to take the ball forward and open up teams with a bit of flair and skill and all that. Like, when I say I'm upset Iwobi's gone, I am a little bit upset he's gone, but not so much of the player. I feel that like the deal to get 35 million is very good for him. But what I'm saying is, I felt we should have reinvested that. If not, we should have kept him. Like, you know what I mean? My argument, as I've been saying, is like, who would you prefer to have in the squad, Mkhitaryan or Iwobi? Well, I think Iwobi wins it hands down as far as I'm concerned. But then people turn around and say, "Oh, we can't get 35 million for for Mkhitaryan. Well, what's the point of having 35 million if you're not going to reinvest it? That's my argument on that. Like, you know, if you see what I'm saying. I'll tell you the one thing I am excited about is the young Brazilian kid. What's his name? Marmatello or something.
Who's this? Sorry,
The young Brazilian. Martinelli, you know, he's going to be a top player. What I've seen of him, he looks really, really good. That's an exciting one for the future. I think the French kid from Saint-Etienne is going to be a real good signing. The one thing I see about a transfer window is what I see is that Arsenal are being very, very positive, not just for now, but for the future as well, like by bringing in these players. There definitely seems to be a shift in the way we're going, you know what I mean? And I like that. You know what I mean? So there are positives in the transfer window. And with the David Luiz one, I do think that, I'd like to think anyway, that Arsenal have probably gone for a bigger target. They couldn't get that deal done. So they've gone for a backup, which is David Luiz, for a short term. And hopefully come January or next summer, they're going to readdress that and look to bring in that player. Now, if that is the case, then you can turn around and say, do you know what? As much as I don't really like that, I can see what you're trying to do. It is proactive in their transfer window, like where in the past we'd have just said, well, we can't get so-and-so. We did try, so we're not going to get no one. So I can see that we're trying something. So there's the positives from it, like, you know. And I think that to get Jenkinson, to get Koscielny off the books and a couple of others, you have to turn around and say that's good business. But I just feel that, you know, we've had all this transfer window, knowing that we're not going to have Bellerin back till about November. We could have got somebody in at right back, you know. And I think now it's time to stop trying to persevere with Maitland-Niles. Mustafi's going to have to go in there at right back, and that's what we're going to have to do, you know, and bring in David Luiz as a central defender with Socrates to start off with, because Holding's not going to be ready for the beginning of the season neither, you know. And you know, so basically, you know, I look at it now, you know, Tierney's going to be a couple of weeks away from getting into the side as well. So realistically, we're going with a back four that was crap last season, and we're going with it in the beginning of this season, like, you know. And that's my disappointment on it, you know. And we've got some bloody tough games coming up, you know what I mean? You don't. I look at the game against Burnley, and I see us attacking and giving away a sloppy goal, you know what I mean? Like, because that's what we do, you know. And so hopefully that can be addressed, you know. And I take on what Drew's saying, which is a good point. If they're going to bring in players that are going to press and going to do different things, you know, like if we press from the front, like with the players that we've got, it may help us from that point of view. But I'm a little bit worried that Torreira's not going to be quite ready from his exploits in South America. So, you know, we're going to go with Xhaka again in there, Ozil, and probably Willock as a free in midfield. Now, is that going to be defensively strong enough? Is that going to be, you know, top four midfield? I'm not so sure. So, you know, there are a few little worrying concerns in there, but, you know, this, you know, we could be sitting here without Pepe and thinking whatever. That is a positive, you know, to get that deal where they got that done is, you know, fantastic business, Tom. You know what I mean? Like, you know, for whoever sorted that out, you know, that's great bit of work. You have to say that. Like, and I don't see that happening under Gazidis and the Wenger era. So I can see there's progression. I get what people are saying, that it's only one window, but, you know, if I'm not mistaken, weren't there last January and last season as well? So this is the third window, not the first. It's the third window. Yeah. You know, so people keep hitting me with that one. Oh, it's the first window. No, it's the third. But I think there have been a lot of positives from it. I think that there, you know, let's not all say it's all. I'm not saying it's all doom and gloom, but what I'm saying is that this Josh Kroenke came out a couple of weeks ago and said, we're going to have this exciting window. And I can tell you that now, Tom. If he would have brought in a top class central defender, which I understand is very difficult when you think about it, when you've got likes of Maguire going for 80 million and Dunk being quoted at 45 million, you know, I understand it's a very, very, you know, like central defenders are going to be tough to get over. But if we'd have got that thing in, the centre half in, I would have been excited. you know. And someone just put on the chat there, would you be pleased with Man United's transfer acquisitions? I would have been very, very pleased with Manchester United's defensive acquisitions. If we'd have got Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, I'd have been very, very happy with that, like, you know. But
would you have swapped it? I think it's actually an intriguing question. I mean, you've got the option there saying Arsenal have signed a world-class talent in Pepe. They've signed for the future in Martinelli. They've got in Saliba as well for the future. Tierney comes straight in for me when he's fit. And then you've signed what is, I'd argue, an improvement on our centre-backs in David Luiz, but obviously nowhere near the quality of what United have signed. Well, I say nowhere near. I think Maguire is massively overrated, but would you have swapped what we've signed for what they've signed?
If I'll be honest, no. I do like Wan-Bissaka. I think that would have been a great signing for us.
Yeah.
Right back, I would have loved that, you know what I mean? But no, listen, somebody, you know, I was a little bit, you know, angry a couple of hours ago and all that, but someone's come up with a good point. One good thing about David Luiz is probably what we haven't got. He is a bit of a leader, which, you know what I mean, he's a bit of a soldier. We haven't had one of them for a long while. You know, somebody said that we need someone like that. We haven't had no one like that for a little while, like, you know. So he is a winner. He's won things. I know we can be erratic at times. So maybe, you know, I think it is an improvement, like, you know. And somebody said, well, what happens if we hadn't signed him? Would you have been, you know, I think I'd rather have him on board than not having him on board, if you know what I mean. So, I personally feel that, you know, I think Man United fans are not happy with what's gone on with them there, and I wouldn't be neither. If you would look at that and you say to us, well, we've sold Aubameyang and not brought no one, say like we sold Aubameyang and we brought in Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, I think we'd be a little bit peeved, wouldn't we? So I think at the end of it, like I wouldn't want to swap with Man United, but am I betting man? Would I bet that we can get above Man United? I'm not so sure. Man United, to be honest, one thing that they've not got is any sort of real top talent going forward from their midfield as well. Where's that going to come from? You know, I know that they've got Pogba, but I think they've got problems with him. Someone said to me on a chat today that they still think that he may go to Real Madrid after our window, of course, is closed, but the European one's not. So, you know, it could be difficult times for Man United. So there is an opportunity, and that's what slightly missed me a little bit. There's a little bit of an opportunity with what's gone on at Man United and also with what's going on at Chelsea. There was a little gate opening for us to just pile through that midfield and get into that top four. I'm still not quite convinced that we're defensively good enough to do that.
Okay, that's fair enough, mate. That's fair enough. It's well summed up. Mike, are you there? I still can't hear you. Why can't I hear you? I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. Your microphone or something. If you've got take the headphones out and you might be able to plug the headphones in or something. But I don't know why we can't hear you. I'm sure you're swearing in an awful accent at us in some way.
American technology, useless.
It's what it is. Yeah, it is. I don't know.
Sorry, Drew. Sorry, Drew. You can hear that. You know.
The thing is, we could hear him at the start before we went live, so I don't know what's happened. Oh, actually, we're just playing a massive practical joke, and we could hear him the entire time. I think Mike's just going to sit there and sort of listen along with us until he's nodding along. Drew, I want to sort of try and barrel through some quick answer questions regarding our signings now. If we go right back to the start, and I want to highlight the question. I should say that Iwobi's been announced now by Everton. It's come up on the feed, but I want to go right back to the start. And the donation question from C Law AFC came in. He said, "Great discussion here, lads. Do you think the rise of Saka and the signing of Martinelli meant Iwobi was surplus? A great bit of business, in my opinion."
Good question.
I wouldn't necessarily call it surplus, but you'd have to assume that
expendable, I would argue.
Expendable in terms of, a lot of people have been saying for a couple of seasons now that Iwobi's better position is actually central, whether if it's as a 10 or as an 8, not on the wing. And if there's no room for him to be rotated into the team, essentially, especially with Ceballos coming in, then you might think that we're maybe prioritizing the younger out-and-out wingers for increased time. I think that's kind of have to handle it. Fans have to understand that you're going to lose players. Like, it just kind of is what it is. Even the biggest clubs sell players who they don't necessarily want to see go. But because, despite us clearly dipping into the cash reserves of the club, it's clear that they still want to operate in some semblance of sustainability. So getting nearly 40 million for Iwobi when you consider the add-ons, it's something that we can't really turn down. But I do also think, again, if we didn't have those players, the likes of Martinelli or Saka or even Reece Nelson, who can play on the left, or Emil Smith-Rowe, if we keep him, who can play on the left, it would be a totally different story entirely. I think it's kind of that simple. So I think the club made a calculated decision. It's a ruthless business when you're trying to really push for honors moving forward, and if you can get good value for a player who, while we've been touting his potential for a long time, hasn't still put out the consistent productivity that we're looking for. I think if you can get that amount of money for that, then you have to sort of take it and run it and move on and put faith in the process with other players. So.
Professional broadcasting, as always. Put myself on mute. I think Iwobi is expendable because of the youth, and I put it on when we were doing a live chat earlier on in the reaction to the Iwobi news and the David Luiz news. John from Miami, our good friend John, sent us a really interesting message giving us all the under 24s in our squad, and it looks really strong. I mean, you've got Bellerin, Holding, Torreira, Tierney, Mavropanos, Guendouzi, Willock, Smith-Rowe, Reece Nelson, Martinelli, Saliba, Saka, and that doesn't even count the likes of Medley and John Jules and Burton, who look very good in pre-season as well. So we got a really strong youth setup, and in those wide positions, as we were talking about, I think that's why we sanctioned the move, because we signed someone like Martinelli at the start of the season. Really was bright in pre-season. Arguably should have scored against Barcelona in that friendly when he took on that half volley. Yeah. Thank you, Mike, for showing us where you are. But
lots of clouds, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, lots of cloud, and it's dark skies here, mainly because it's 10 o'clock at night nearly. I think he is expendable ultimately because of the signings that we've made. I just want to show you the announcement that was made by Everton, because I want to come to you on Iwobi very briefly, and it's, for me, it's still a shame that he's gone, because I liked him a lot. I really did like. I really did like Iwobi. I thought he had a future. I thought there was a lot of potential. He was only 23 years old. And for me, seeing someone of that potential from our youth academy go is sad. But when you think about it, actually, it's something that Arsenal have failed to do for a long time, is to produce the talent from their academy. See Chelsea, for example, and then sell them on for a good price. He cost us nothing because we developed him, and we've sold him on for nearly 40-odd million, and we've got 28 million of that up front. So what overall, now we've talked about it a bit, does it make more sense, or are you still more gutted than pleased?
Well, no, it makes sense. From a business point of view, it makes sense. You know what I mean? I'm a little bit gutted because I used to see his dad at games as well, like, you know what I mean? So I'm going to miss his dad, like, very nice fella, like, so
yeah.
So it's a little bit of a personal thing as well, but I just feel that I think it's a great question that has been put there. That, because of the younger players, Reece Nelson's going to get more of a chance now, and I think that we need to do that. We need to Saka, I think, is going to be a really, really good player. What I've seen of him, so it's going to help them too. There, I just feel that maybe Iwobi could have played in that the number 10 role. But that basically means that we've got Ozil or Mkhitaryan for that role for the foreseeable future. So them two have really now, I think, in looking at this, they've been given a real boost to say, like, right, well, okay, we've sold Iwobi, but it's up to you to come in there. Them two, Emery and the powers that be now to really put in some performances now, because Iwobi could do that position as well. I'm not saying as good as them, but at this moment in time, Ozil and more so Mkhitaryan have been hit and miss. So it'd be very. I think it's up to. They've got an opportunity. One of them two is. I think it's time now for Ozil to step up. Because people keep telling me, "Oh, we can't get him off the wage list. We can't." He's one of the reasons why we can't sign players, because of the wages. We can't get rid of him. Right, well, this is where he steps up now, like, and when you've got the likes of Pepe, Aubameyang, and Lacazette in front of you, that's enough movement. That he should be finding players and making lots of things happen. So, I think he owes Emery, and Emery, I think, is putting himself under a lot of pressure by putting his all eggs in the Ozil basket, because if he doesn't perform, then I think it will be Emery will be the one to go, not him, because I think, as Drew said earlier on, if they don't get top four, Emery's under a real big lot of pressure, because people would have turned around and said, well, he hasn't had the tools to do this. They've, people say, oh, if you got the ingredients to make a shepherd's pie, you got no potatoes, you ain't going to make a shepherd's pie, So
now, my favourite analogy that anyone's used on this show. So.
There you go. So no one there. So he's got the tools now, because he's got a centre half in that, he's actually turned around and said that he likes, because he's worked with him at PSG. He's brought in a left back. He's got the wide player that he needs. So the pressing game should be there and thereabouts. We'll have to wait and see. And I don't know how people feel about it, about Iwobi. I think, there's a lot of always going through the years, Tom, of Arsenal. There's always been a criticism for young players coming through, whether it go from Paul Davis when he was back in the 80s, got untold stick in the first couple of years, and look what happened to him. I think there's been a lot of players like that have come through the ranks, and I'm always disappointed when someone comes through the ranks and then gets sold, but has been sold. I've seen players go through the ranks like Mr. Wiltshire, and we've got nothing for him, So the what is the comfort blanket, if you like, the safety net of him going is that we've got a good fee for him, So and I also have to say this about Iwobi. His work rate was sensational. He used to give us a good work rate and everything like that, So, again, that means that Mkhitaryan and Ozil have got a shape up on that department as well. But all in all, I think from a business point of view, when you get the thing is, when you've got a player and you're going to sell, did Arsenal really want to sell him? If someone would have come in for 15 million or something like that, would it have sold him? It's like when Arsenal put in a £40 million bid for Zaha. That ain't going to happen. But I think 35 million for Iwobi was too good a deal for us to turn down, if I'll be honest, Tom.
Yeah, it was. I completely understand why the club have done it, because to get a amount of money up front, if you think about it, that's more money than we're paying for Pepe. We're getting 28 million of that 40 million odds up front. That's the reported fee. And that's more than we're paying Lille for Pepe in his first season in a £72 million deal. So it pays that off, and it pays off also the fees for Saliba this year and for Ceballos, his loan fee. So those are all wiped off the map. I think on that side of things, it does make it a little bit more disappointing that we didn't reinvest it this summer. But the counter arguments to that is that this happened so late that how were we ever going to reinvent? We didn't know. What annoys me about the Everton tweet is also that Marco Silva says that Alex is one of our main targets for this window. Well, that's a load of rubbish, because they went for Zaha continually.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they've gone for Zaha, haven't they? And they couldn't get him, so they've gone for Iwobi. Exactly, what I'm hoping now is that we couldn't get who we wanted as a central defender, but we can now go back in January, like Liverpool did with Van Dijk. They couldn't get him in the summer transfer window, and they went and got him in the January transfer window, and look what happens there. So that's something that I think that Arsenal have got to look at. Can they go and do something in January when we never do anything in January? So we'll have to wait and see. It's or do we wait till next season? Listen, David Luiz, let's not write him off at this moment in time. He may well be, It's going to be confusing watching him and Guendouzi playing, isn't it? Like, Jesus
Especially when him and Guendouzi are doing one.
Yeah, you know what I mean? When they, who's at fault for that? They'd be blaming each other, wouldn't they, and trying to get away with it, So it'd be interesting to see them two there. That's another one. Guendouzi, is he going to improve from last season? So, did El Neni stay?
At the moment, but obviously we've the European window's open for
but at this moment in time, he's
still here.
He's still here,
He's obviously he shaved his head. So What's that, Drew?
Driving me nuts with this Upamecano business. We both,
Right, okay. No, I could see you. I could see you nearly ending your life as we're chatting here. People in the chat box are going. Drew's face says no. I can see. Look, everyone's laughing at Drew's face in the chat.
we give a 2-minute tutorial. Look,
You're going to scare him off. You're never going to let him be on camera again. That's what...
simple as this. I don't rule out Leipzig getting rid of Upamecano. That's not the nature of it. But we're not in control of that destiny. He's in control of it first and foremost. So going into this year, he has 2 years left on his deal, and he's not extended his contract yet. So after this season, he has 1 year left. Obviously, they're not going to want to sell him for a massively reduced fee after one season if he decides to not re-up himself. So I don't rule out him being sold in January. But that's contingent on a few things. One, does he extend or not? If he extends, obviously he wants to stay. And two, if they're the talk around Leipzig this season is that they can generally, from the off under Nagelsmann, start challenging for the Bundesliga title this season. And he is a vital part of that. So come January, if they're deep in the title race, after during the Winterpause and they're still in Champions League, come the second half of the season, why are they going to sell him? There's absolutely.
Can I ask you a question? Because obviously you know a little bit about. Do you think Arsenal definitely in for him? Do you think there is something in that, or you just think that maybe?
I don't think we're not. First of all, we're not the only big club that's monitoring him. Most of the big clubs in Europe are looking at him. 100%. I can
plus Canate and
Barca, Real. United hasn't been just. I do think we are interested. And I think we tested the waters with the bid, but I don't know if we were 100% serious.
I don't think we bidded. I genuinely just think we inquired.
I think either we inquired or we put in that bid to see kind of the feel of Leipzig out, kind of feel like they're resolving the player. I mean,
so you feel it was never going to happen in this window?
I don't think so. Because I don't think it allowed. If you look at how, like Tom said, I think if we went after him seriously a month ago, I think we could have had a chance because that would have allowed them to say, give us a couple weeks. We need a legitimate replacement for him in this window.
They're very keen on Smith Rowe, so it could have been a case of
that was my next question.
Right.
Would he have sacrificed Smith Rowe?
I think I would. I don't know about Drew.
If we came in for him, in July, there's a chance they would have said yes. But again, they have to replace him because if you look past him in their depth chart, it's just Willy Orban and Ibrahima Konate. The other 4 center backs are all 18-year-olds. 3 of them that just got promoted from the under-19s, and the other one is Ethan Empadu, who just went on.
Under-19s also called Red Bull Salzburg these days.
Well, that too. So there's both of them. So I mean, if you're looking at their depth for trying to challenge for the title and in Europe, they don't have it if he leaves. So certainly letting him go now when the Bundesliga season is 10 days away, that's not ideal, and they absolutely can't replace him on a moment's notice. So if we come at them now in September and say, we're interested in January, is that enough time for you to find a replacement? Then sure, I could see it. But if he either extends his contract or if they say we're not interested in selling in January because we have goals this year under Nagelsmann, it's not going to happen. But if he doesn't extend, then there's no reason why we couldn't go in early next summer and say, here's 65, 70, 75 million upfront cash, take it. They won't say no. But the same thing, remember when Naby Keita went to Liverpool? They said, we'll sell him, but we're keeping him for another season because you didn't leave us time to get a replacement for him. We sold him to you, but we're keeping him another year. Liverpool had to wait another year after spending the money because Leipzig want to replace it. They run very efficiently in terms of squad building, to their credit. So we have to factor that in. We can't just put them under the caution and say, here's money, take or leave it, if they have their own goals to worry about. So it's not completely out of the blue impossible, but there's other factors. It's not just as easy as just money. So I don't rule it out, but this window, I never thought we had a chance. Tom knows that. We spoke about it in the group chat.
Yeah, could they actually go then? So what you're saying, we could actually go back in January and say that maybe like buy him in January and then he stays till the end of that season.
We could do that. We could say we want him to come in the summer, but we'll buy him now.
Yeah,
you keep him for the rest of the year, and then that leaves them, the next 6 months. That's also a highly possibility. But again, he's never agitated for a move, publicly or whatever, for leaving the club. In fact, last season during the Rückrunde, he said that he's happy to stay. He's guaranteed to start for them when he's fit. It's his development he's worried about. That could all change when we're a bigger club than Leipzig, obviously. So that all changes if we come in seriously with a serious bid. I think he'd consider it, but he's not going to force out the move either.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's. I get the frustration. Honestly, before I feel like I'm going to paint Lee in a really bad light now. Like, I was buzzing about this window, but Lee, you have put me a bit down to earth again about the whole centre back thing, because I am gutted that we ultimately didn't achieve our main goal, which was to sign a centre back that takes our defence to another level. The big caveat is, I think that we've signed someone in David Luiz who, whilst we can moan all day long and say he doesn't start for Chelsea, that's not good enough, but that doesn't mean that he's not better than what we've got, and he is. I think he is better than Socrates. He is better than what we're holding at this stage. I think the experience and the fact he's won stuff, and the mentality and the charisma and what he adds to the dressing room, I think will be a big plus. Ultimately, we did say that about Petr Cech when he joined, about winning mentality, and that didn't really do that.
And Liechtenstein.
And Liechtenstein. But yeah, I know what you mean.
What was his name? Stefan, wasn't it?
Stefan Lichtsteiner, yeah. But trust me, there are people that said
Stefan rubbish.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When people were asking us about signing Dani Alves, like, I would have been for that, but then it could have gone down the same route as we saw.
Listen, somebody said to me today, right, and this is, was trying to pacify me because I've had a little bit of the hump, and they said, look, at the beginning of 2 or 3 weeks ago, if you'd have said, look, we could have got Cahill for nothing, we would have took it. I'd have said, yeah, I'll take it. Like, so now we've got Luiz for 8 million. Yeah. Who's, like the 4th choice central defender, not the 5th choice. You know what I mean? So
true.
So I see a lot of things what people are saying on it. I really do.
I think you need to get away from the whole 3rd, 4th, 5th choice thing, because it's only.
I get that. I get that, and I honestly think that the worry for me, right? I'm going to say another little worry for me about it is that I don't necessarily feel that Arsenal have gone for a central defender. I feel that Koscielny, that they wanted for him to stay. Now he's gone. They've looked at David Luiz as a replacement for Koscielny. That's how I feel like it. Not a real, like, and Drew, who knows a lot about the Germany stuff, is saying that was definitely a no-go from the word go. So I just feel that maybe they just put that out there, to just sort of throw it. Oh, we've gone for this centre half, when realistically, we can't get him, so we get David Luiz. But David Luiz is a replacement for Koscielny, and I, that's how I feel. I think maybe because Arsenal were so bloody deceitful in the past, I don't trust them in the transfer window. Somebody said to me today, do you think, because I don't know if this is true, how you feel about this. Obviously, Zaha's put a transfer request in and things, obviously I think that somebody must have told him that Iwobi was going to go to Everton, maybe Arsenal were going to go back in for him, and it hasn't happened. Will Arsenal go back in January? If they really, really want Zaha, they should be going back there in January or next season if they really, really want him. Otherwise, I feel a little bit we've treated him a little bit badly by putting in bids.
I think he's been really badly advised this summer, Zaha. I think that if he'd have pushed for a deal earlier, he might have got it. But handing in a transfer request the day before the deadline,
wasn't their ideal thing.
Have held firm all summer that they want minimum 100 million, is what we were told all the time. I mean, they rejected a 70 million pound bid plus St. Tosin and McCarthy, one of the two, and that's a hell of a bid. Like, St. Tosin,
but he doesn't want to go there. He doesn't want to go there. He said he wants to go to Arsenal. I feel right. If I was Zaha today, I'd be very, very upset, because I've seen, from his point of view, I've seen Wan-Bissaka have one season at Crystal Palace and get what he wants. Right, seen what he wants. I've then seen Zaha, right, who's give Palace a lot of good years, not being given the same sort of respect, like for that. He's done all of that for them, and they've kept him against his will. I'm not saying that Crystal Palace should have accepted 40 million. I don't think they should have, but they could have probably said, look, okay, Zaha's done so much for us over the last 5 years, and he's certainly kept us in the league. We'll do a deal like you've got out of Lille, You know what I mean? For the sake of Zaha. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and they've not done that, you know. So I feel that he's been a little harshly treated. I think that they could have said, look, you know, even though it would have been 72 million or 80 million, we'd do it in different stages, you know. I feel that they've not really helped him out. And I feel sorry for him. I really do, you know, not because he's an Arsenal player or wants to come to Arsenal. You know, obviously Arsenal have sanded him out deep down, that somewhere down the line. Otherwise, you don't come out and say you want to go to Arsenal. And I feel that, you know, he's been sort of left in limbo a little bit by all of this.
Yeah, I think he has been left in limbo a bit. As I said, I think he's been badly advised. Obviously he has to play, and he has to play his heart out, and that's it. And to get a move in the summer. Before I move on to you, Drew, for a quick question to go through this, because we're 45 minutes into this with 15 minutes left, and we've only covered really two of the 6 players we've signed really so far. As I said, Sea-Lord donation earlier. Mike actually donated $5 for the issues that he's had. You don't need to do that, mate. I'll be sending that money.
No, it should be 10.
Yeah, it should. Yeah, it should be 10. It should be. And H. Fretlaw also donated $2. So thank you for the donations. But Drew, let's talk about someone we signed after Martinelli. We had a bit of a wait. And then people were starting to get a bit frustrated. And then there was a certain interview with someone who was supposed to be on this podcast and lost his voice. That he sat down with Josh Kroenke, and after that, in fact, on that day, it was announced that we'd signed both Dani Ceballos on loan for a year from Real Madrid and William Saliba from Saint Etienne, who would then return to Saint Etienne on loan for a season. So, what out of those two deals, like, what do you make of them both? And I thought at the time they were really quite shrewd and positive deals. But what do you make of them, and what do you expect from them going forward?
I think Ceballos, even though it's a loan, I think he's genuinely going to push for a starting spot this season. And I do think that if the avenue for him is closed at Real Madrid, I think maybe Raul caught wind of that from Madrid execs, and maybe we'll bring him on loan to see if we want to bring him in full time next season. So having him on the loan is non-committal from us. If it doesn't work, we let him go. You know, we're not tied down to an obligation to buy. So I'm a fan of the deal. I think if he earns his place, it tells you everything you need to know. It means that he's good enough for the team. It means he was an upgrade all along. But for me, more importantly, he brings us a center midfield option who gives us options that we don't have. He's very, very good on the ball. Obviously, he's creative. Hicks to have a go at people, but that gives us the ability to actually be more press resistant, which is why I think if Xhaka does not perform consistently, I would not be shocked if you see Ceballos replacing him along Torre in midfield if it's just a normal pivot, because, you know, Xhaka is you know, he's creative in his own right. He does control tempo well, but we see what happens when he's under pressure. We see the mistakes he does make. We do see the fact that he's not nearly as mobile as that you need from a center midfielder who only has one other partner. And I can't even tell you how many times I've said this since before we even signed him, that I think if we were playing a 4-3-3, Xhaka would be perfect as long as he had direct support behind him and a holding midfielder, which he's never had at the club. Ceballos changes all that. You know, he will drop deep. He will start to build. He'll start to build play. If he doesn't have a pass, he'll beat his man and reassess. And you saw that in the under-21s for Spain this summer. So I am a big fan of the deal. As for Saliba, everything that has come out from every French journalist that has been referenced on that says that he is an absolute talent for his age, that people are reminded by Rafa Varane when he was at Lens, and that in terms of how good he can be, and that he looks like he is a man playing football, though he's only 18 years old. So it's what we want to hear, 100%. Obviously, how he gets on at Saint Etienne this season will matter to us, but I do think that there's a big chance that come next season, if his development track continues, that he'll walk into the 11 next season. Then I think long term, he'll at least partner holding long term, depending on what the business we do in the market. Say we do go back in for another center back next summer, that's fine. Then we can rotate other options out. You know, Socrates coming into next season only has 1 year left, and with what Raul says is true, we're gonna sell players if they don't, you know, extend, or we'll let him run his contract down and he's done for us, and that's fine. And he did his time and he's finished. But we're really building something special long term. And for me, that shows the intent of the higher ups, of Raul, of Josh Kroenke, of maybe Unai Emery. Never really know. Edu has a role. But as long as we're setting ourselves up for long term success, that's my concern. Obviously, we want Champions League this year, no questions asked. If we don't get it, the inquest can begin again. But if we're setting ourselves up to really be in the conversation moving forward within 2 or 3 years, I think that's what every fan wants to see. It's what we kind of deserve at this point. And I do think something special will happen if we get it right. The question now is, will Unai Emery be the right manager to get it right with? That'll be the question for me. But in terms of those 2 deals, I'm quite happy. And just briefly, I don't want to reopen this discussion again, but just bear in mind, Chelsea's defense last season surrendered 13 fewer goals than we did, and David Luiz started 36 Premier League matches last season in that defense. Yeah. So some of that comes down to the nature of the team and how they're set up to press or not press, and how their back four is organized, sure, but he's a decent enough player to come in and do a job for us, hopefully. If Lee's right, then I'll buy Lee 55 beers next time he's over here and happily.
I think he would have rather that than we signed a top-class centre-back, to be honest, mate.
Right. But I think we'll be fine next season.
Half pints. Remember, half pints.
No, full
pints. Thank you.
And then I'll Tom, and then we'll just replay events of last summer.
Those mics nowhere near to spill it all over me.
Yeah, no. Tom froze them. He don't drink them. He froze them.
Oh, dearie me. As long as we're not in a place as bad as we watched the Europa League final. So, yeah. So, Lee, then, obviously moving on from, we've talked a bit about Pepe, which was obviously the next signing after Sebastian Saliba. And then we got all the way around to deadline day being today. I haven't really got your a chance to talk about Kieran Tierney that much. I know you mentioned him briefly right at the beginning. Obviously, those that want to learn a lot more about Kieran Tierney, you can, because I've uploaded a video with Brian McVeigh of Reed Celtic. He gave me all the information that possibly you and I could ever dream of. And we broke it down in a Q&A style. So please do go check out that video with Brian McVeigh. It's on the channel now. But Lee, Kieran Tierney, 22 years old, £25 million from Celtic. He's hugely highly rated by a lot of their fans, and they're very angry that he's gone. What are your
thoughts? That says a lot if they're angry that he's gone. 22, I thought he was a little bit older than that. Charlie Nicholas said on Sky today that he was 24, so 22, so even better. 22. You know, so listen, he's a serial winner. I know it's only in Celtic, in Scotland, and people will say things like that, but you know, he's used to winning. He's used to being a fullback that is on top of other teams' opposition. So that's going to help us, because we're, you know, normally an offensive side that are more possession than not against the team. So he's going to be used to that. So he's going to be good going forward. I think that it'll be a test for him for the first few months, if I'll be honest, because the Premier League is different to any other league, as we know. But I think that this is a good signing because, again, you know, he's bringing something to the table. He's a winner, you know, and to win title. And what also people don't get sometimes is that if you continually keep winning the league, you can lose hunger for it and all that. But obviously he's one player that hasn't, you know what I mean, because they've continued to win Celtic. I know that it's been an easier league, but they could drop off in his performances and all that. And I also think that one of the reasons that he's coming down here is because of Robinson at Liverpool. You know, they're two vying for the same position, and you know, Robinson's kicked on at Liverpool. I think that Tierney, if I'm quite right, was saying, was in front of him before he come down to England. So now it's a chance for him to kick on and show that he is the real deal and better than that. So I think that he's got a couple of goals, one to be a success at Arsenal and one to show that he's the best left back in Scotland as well. So I think that it's a good fit for him, and it's certainly a good fit for us. The only thing that I do worry about is what does that leave for Monreal and Kolasinac, because one of them is going to have to be left out if we're going to go with a 4-4-2, unless, you know, one of like Monreal could play as in a back four, because he has done in the past. I don't know if that happened, or we play in a back three. Maybe Tierney can play that, and Kolasinac and Monreal can play in the back three. I don't know. So I think that'd be interesting to see how that works out, because one of them, or even both of them, is going to be sort of surplus to requirements a little bit once he's up and running. But I'm pretty sure for the first 6-7 weeks that these guys are going to have their opportunity. And that's another good thing, though, Tom, is that, you know, if you've got Tierney coming in and you're Kolasinac, or you're Monreal, you know you've got to perform well. Otherwise, you're going to be out of the team. So, you know, there's your chance. You've got the shirt, make sure you don't lose it. So it could be a positive that it kicks these two into gear, because really, if they've been competition for each other, I don't think so. Certainly is now, though, because I think that Tierney can play as a left back, but he also can play as a wing back, if I'm correct.
No, you're right. I think that it's a really intriguing. I think we can all agree that this is probably Monreal's final season at Arsenal. Obviously, he's got one more year left on his deal. He's well past 30 now, as far as I'm aware, and I think he'll move off to probably a Spanish team when he goes back. It'd be nice to see him go back to Malaga, maybe try and get them back to where they deserve to be. In terms of Kolasinac, this whole thing about what happens to this player when this one signs, for me, I'm more looking at now as it's great to have competition for players.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see if you can handle it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that mental push. We've had too many players that have been comfortable in
too much easy street.
Exactly. And like I remember when Giroud was striker, had no one really pushing him. Bellerin never really had anyone pushing him. So it's nice if Maitland-Niles can develop and improve. Hopefully we'll push him to be much better as well. The more centre-backs we sign, the more competition there is there. There's a lot of competition in centre midfield now. There's people pushing Xhaka for a position with Ceballos and Guendouzi in there as well. I think there's people in positions that are being pushed. I think we still need to sign another centre midfielder for sure to add to that competition in the future. The front three is now there's loads of competition. There's youngsters that are hungry, fighting to get into that starting lineup. We'll get plenty of experience in the European competition. So I'm really excited to sort of see where this goes. But competition for places, I don't think is too much of an issue anymore. There's still some positions where I think it is.
Also, so one good thing in the transfer we forgot to say, I think Eddie going to Leeds is a fantastic move. Fantastic move for him. Big club. Go there, banging some goals, and I'm really interested to see how he goes at Leeds. I think that's a fantastic move for him because he's going to a big club as well, like, you know what I mean, and where they're expecting him to perform. So I think that's a fantastic move for him and Arsenal, because I think that it can really, you know, I didn't want to see him going Bristol City like a little bit, you know, but this one here, Leeds, is a big thing for him.
We haven't really talked about the departures. There's been so much to talk about today that we haven't really managed to touch on those. But obviously, there's been plenty of shows throughout the summer where we've covered it, so you've got plenty of time to go back and check those out. Before we go, obviously we have a game, believe it or not, that actually means something this weekend against Newcastle. So before we wrap up, I want to get the prediction from the boys and what they're thinking. So Drew, mate, I'm going to start with you. Newcastle, how are you feeling?
I think we'll be okay. I'm going to be super optimistic to start the season and say 3-0. I think, you know, there's a change with Rafa not being there. I don't think Steve Bruce was the right, obviously, man for the job for that club. I think that's like a bit of shambolic nonsense that they've pulled. They've got some good players. You know, Joelinton went there. Alessandro Maximin went there. So their attacking players are there, but I don't think they have the right man to actually get the best tune out of them. So I think we'll go in confident. I think you'll see maybe something reminiscent to how Unai might want to play. I think we might actually see the 4-2-3-1. Whether we start Oba and Laka together or not is the question. But I think we'll come out with a positive, confident result, and that's kind of what we want to build on going into Burnley and getting that momentum until we have Liverpool and Spurs back to back. So as many maximum points as possible. St. James is a tough place to go, but they're kind of in a shambles right now. Let's take advantage of it. This is the kind of result where we struggled last season, where there was no excuse when a team was a bit of a lurch and we fucked it. So we have to start strong for that reason.
Man, we went 58 minutes without a swear. I'm never having you back on.
If our squad can swear, I can swear. That's kind of how it works.
Fair enough. That is the measure these days. Lee, mate, Newcastle, what do you think?
Do you know what? I haven't got a clue.
You going?
Yes, going. You know what I mean? But I haven't got a clue. Hopeful, very, very hopeful. I think that you know, listen, if our front three click, we can do anything like that. I mean, I think that we'll score goals. I think a lot of people I've just seen on the chat putting 3-1. So I will go with that 3-1, 3-2, something like that. I think that we'll have just a bit too much firepower for 4-0. Very optimistic, Martin. But yeah, I think that you know, 4-2 maybe, something like that. I think there'll be lots of goals there for this one. I'm afraid that we won't be keeping a clean sheet. I'd love to see us go up there and really hammer it home. But listen, I'll take any sort of win as long as we come back with 3 points. That's. I'm not bothered if we keep a clean sheet or not. It'd be nice to get 3 points on the board.
100%, mate. 100%. Could not agree more. I think in terms of where I'm predicting, obviously every season, those that are new to the channel, there's usually a comedy prediction from the channel every week to see if it happens. It used to be 1-0 on Coquelin to score because he never scored. Then it was Lacazette 3-0 hat trick, which never happened. So this season, we're going to have to get a sort of another comedy prediction to see each week and wait for that to come around. I'll have to put a poll up or something, get something sorted. But I'm going to go for 2-1 to the Arsenal. I think it'll be cagey. I think it'll be nervous. Obviously, Newcastle, as Drew said, have signed the likes of Joleton, who's a good striker, did well in Germany last year. Saint Maximin, the former Nice right winger. From speaking to Jeremy Smith, who you'll know from some of the tactical breakdowns we've done, he doesn't rate him too highly. So I'm not too concerned about that whatsoever. And I think that we have enough firepower to win. I don't think Pepe will start. I think he'll be on the bench, and I think he'll come on because that's usually what we see.
He's barely returned to training, right?
Exactly, yeah. I think, and the same with Torreira, probably be on the bench. I think we could see Nelson start. I think that Willock has a chance of possibly starting as well. Yep. Tierney won't be in the side for at least a few weeks because of his rehabilitation. Tough word. But we might see David Luiz in. Who knows? Obviously, he's not had any proper training sessions, but he's been throughout the whole of pre-season with Chelsea, been playing pre-season games, and we've seen players coming in the past straight away if they've been fit. So that's a possibility. But it could be Chambers and Socrates, which is probably what it will be, but who knows? It'd be interesting to see what we go with. Obviously, I'll be reacting to everything. In terms of shows that are coming up, before we wrap up, immediately after we're done here, there will be a upload of David Luiz's Q&A with Tony from Chelsea SW6 going up. A Q&A with him, discussing everything, what he thinks about the move from a Chelsea perspective. And then tomorrow you're going to get 2 uploads. The first one is going to be a Newcastle preview with Liam Kennedy, who is a writer for Newcastle. And the other one is going to be a tactical breakdown of David Luiz with Reed Chelsea's writer, which is Ollie, and he's going to talk about David Luiz as well in a tactical breakdown style with all the analytics, statistics, graphics, everything as normal. So do tune in for that. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. Everyone in the live chat has been over 800 of you tonight, watching live, which is great. So thank you very much for tuning in. Give it a like. As Mike says there, I've been grafting my arse off this summer with daily uploads. I hope you've appreciated it. Please subscribe if you're new with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show, and you can tune in as soon as those shows go live. Watch all the old content. Please do go check out Lee at Lee Mark Judges on Twitter. Please do go check out Drew at FM Lera. Thank you, boys, very much. Appreciate your time.
But of course.
Cheers, Lee. You can sit there in silence for that. Cheers, boys. We'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.